Very good afternoon, everybody. So after a long time, this is going to be an interactive session, right? I mean, we've been hearing lots of speeches, so I'm hoping that this is going to be a very active and interactive session. So I think we are still getting some more people on the dais. And I definitely know there were two who couldn't turn up because of health reasons and the other, but I don't know, let me see. I had a text from them, but come Narayan. So the idea is that this panel discussion will go on for an hour, and I have already had a chance to speak to the distinguished panelists here on the order, as well as in the way that we are planning to do this. So before I actually start requesting each of the panelists to come on stage and speak for their duration, I would like to say that I'm preserving at least about 10 or 15 minutes towards the end, if that is possible after all these gentlemen speak, to see whether we could have an interactive session on questions that potential investors would like to ask us, or people who are in the audience who are interested as to why they would like to invest in Karnataka. So I would like to begin by just giving a few very important points that came up to my mind. And I think this is one of the reasons why I think Karnataka is in the forefront. So you heard Kiran mentioning a lot of statistics about the innovation system there. You had the GSK representative talking about why we need to move up the value chain, which is the most important thing. And the third and most important part, which some of the dignitaries were mentioning, is the so-called unsung heroes and heroines, I would call, who are from the government, who work with all the industry people and behave as if it is their own industry that they are heading. So I normally do not resort to any sort of sycophancy or other things in any room. I mean, for that matter, I don't even mention people by name. But I would like to certainly mention the name of Manjula ji, the ITBT secretary, now promoted and now part of the chief secretary cadre here in Karnataka, for spearheading this, and also every single member of the BT task force are here. I mean, in this audience I have seen all of them. That shows the commitment here. Not one is with any illness or ailness, but all working here round the clock there. So I would like you all to put your hands together for making this happen by this lady here who is sitting there. So 3 points, and then I'm going to ask the people to come in. First and foremost things, Karnataka took the initiative of creating, like what Kiran mentioned, a vision group. Now this was truly path-breaking because the vision group had industry representatives, people who have done it, people who would be investing in the state, and people who have international connections, along with the set of people who are connected with directly implementing the desires of this vision group in the state. Now this worked like a husband and wife team, and I have seen transformational changes that has happened on account of this partnership with the industry and with the government and with the bureaucracy. So this has been one of the finest hallmark, I would say, highlights of this state. The second thing I have noticed is, if you had heard, the minister was also mentioning in the inaugural, there is a policy for every single sector, be it IT, be it BT, be it medtech, be it something. There has been a policy document, and the policy document has been crafted with the people who are in the business, and that has been put to use and that's been implemented. Now I am not even sure, I deal with a number of states, I have not seen any of those things in any other state, which is another very important part here. The third and most important thing is that biotechnology, unfortunately or fortunately, has got this ability to imbibe from several areas. It takes in from physics, it takes in from automation, it takes in from IT, it takes in from something. The biology bit is the enabler, but around the biology bit has got so many other industries which work with it. Now this is one of the reasons I believe, I'm not sure whether there are very many states which has got an IT and a BT combined together. In the early days, I used to be thinking, what is the synergy between an IT and a BT to be together under one stewardship? But as you might have seen now, there is going to be at least about 50-60% of overlap on what biology is going to take from IT in the years to come, starting from artificial intelligence, automations, big data crunching, and a lot of other things that are going to happen. So some of you may not know, I have requested the ITBT in charge, Manjula ji, to be sure that we are able to work alongside one of her flagship IT programs, where we want one session dedicated to the actual, if you have a Venn diagram, the actual intersection between the two. So we want to schedule some sessions so that the IT is sensitized to the needs of the biologists, and biologists are aware of the IT capabilities that are there. And as Kiran mentioned, a lot of us have still not leveraged on the IT that needs to be done here. So we are not going to work in silos. And the beauty about Bangalore is that there is going to be no more silos, because all the environment people of different faculties have come together and converged into the state. So this makes it a wonderful place for things to happen. And I've always wondered, when I am toiling with other states for them to bring up that numbers which was mentioned here, 190 startups in Bengaluru, and I'm trying to help states which are sub 40, sub 20, sub 10. And I know the real struggle in getting that ecosystem up there. Now you are extremely lucky that the ecosystem has fallen completely in place. And we are having a situation where every industry can come here, choose talent, work on intersections, work on innovative areas, which you cannot do it in other parts of India. Now that is where, even if I have soft corner for a number of other states, it is becoming increasingly evident that this state is taking the leadership. The last point here is, one of the things we have to remember is that all of us have been part of the policy making for Karnataka. We have been part of the vision group. We have been part of so many things. Now, as you might have heard from the Union Minister, this is the time for Karnataka to have a record growth, which is going to be above the national average. And I think for that to happen, some of the earlier panel speakers were also mentioning, I think the state government also has to champion with industry bodies to put a lot of pressure on union government policy makers to ensure that the regulatory landscape, as well as whatever that is needed to be done, to ensure that the climate here is in proper order. I think that is something we need to be discussing. Like the GSK gentleman mentioned here, manufacturing decisions, I also work for a multinational, manufacturing decisions simply do not happen one day. There are at least several sorties, several treks that you make to several countries, several locations, several red carpets are rolled out to us before we make the final decision of making it in a place where we choose. And I think we should compliment GSK for making that decisions for coming into Bengaluru, because they are going to be sending out a very, very strong signal to the rest of the world that, hey, we are here. And that means that the others are also going to follow suit. So I think in that way, I compliment you for taking this, because we have taken at least 5 years to decide where we want to manufacture. And I think we are still making that decision. So I think you have at least made one. So I think that's wonderful. So I would like to compliment you on that. So with these words, I'm going to call the panelists from right to left. Each one of them are coming from a sector. I think the first gentleman is going to be talking about agriculture, to the last, who is going to talk about finishing schools and others, which are part of the Karnataka government. I'm going to ask the speakers to introduce themselves, because all of them are known to me as personal friends. But I still want them to introduce about themselves, so that I don't read these fantastic biodatas wrong and make a mess of it. And then after that, you are welcome to express about your sector. And please stick to a time so that we'll give the audience a chance to interact. So I would